Thus far, this is what we have in our data frame. And as you can see, our data is basically multiple sizes, dimensions, shapes, and spatial projections. So one of the major things that we'll need to do is to get all of this to be a consistent size and into a consistent spatial projection and coordinate system. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to organize my data frame a little bit, because as you can see here, it can be kind of encumbersome to have to go through and click everything on and off. And as you navigate through here, just to manipulate this viewport, it takes a long time to have to draw all of this. So over here in my table of contents, I'm going to create what are called group layers. So I'm going to go ahead and just right click on this up here, and I'm going to look for new group layer. And right now it just created one, and it's called new group layer, and I actually want it to be named something very specific. So I'm going to right click on this again and go to properties, and I'm going to name this source. Source as in source data, and then click OK. Now I should be able to drag and drop things into source. So let me try selecting it all. So I'm going to press shift and click on, I clicked on the top one, and then I scrolled down and I pressed shift and left mouse button on the last one. It should select everything in between, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to drag all of this and stick it under there. So everything is now under source. So now that everything is underneath this group layer, one of the cool things that we can do, especially if you want to turn everything off, is uncheck that, and it turns everything off that is inside of this group layer. So you can kind of begin to see how useful that this is going to potentially be for us, since we have so many things going on here. So there's several ways that we can organize our source directory. We can create more. So if I right click on source again and do another group filter, and now I have a subgroup filter. And what I'll do here is I'm going to rename this Riley County Data. Now, we'll let you know that the group filters don't need to abide by the special naming rules. So you can have spaces and special characters. So for this one, I'm going to put all of my Riley County data inside of this group filter. So I'm going to grab all of this stuff all the way down to here, and I'm just going to drag and drop it into here. So now if I turn off my Riley County data, I'm pretty much down to my soils. Notice how I can expand and collapse this too. So now my table of contents is not some huge scroll thing where I have to scroll up and down anymore, which is going to be very convenient. And I didn't mean to add that to my data frame, so I'm just going to remove that. So now I'm down to my soils and the stuff that I got from the Data Access and Support Center. So I'm going to create some more group filters here, or layers, sorry, and then go to properties. I'm going to call this Dask, so because this is data that I received from Dask. So that would be this one and this one here. So now if I uncheck Dask, all that turns off, and the only thing I have left now is my soils. And I'm going to go ahead and put that into a new group layer as well. And I'm going to call this one USDA, since that's where the data came from. And then I'm going to drag and drop that inside of there as well. So now I can turn that off. So now everything is off in my data frame. If I just want my Dask data, I can turn on my Dask data. If I want my soils, I can turn that off and turn my soils on. Totally expandable and collapsible, which makes this a lot more manageable. Now I could potentially go into my Riley County data and create more group layers, but for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm probably not going to do that. I notice here that I have some redundant information. I have another soils here. If I right click on this one and go to Open Attribute Table, I notice that it doesn't have as much information as my other soils data. So what I'm probably going to do is just remove this one from the data frame. And when I remove something from the data frame, it doesn't delete it off of my hard drive, it just simply removes it from the display here. It's still on my hard drive. It hasn't been deleted, it's just been simply removed from my data frame here. So now one thing I need to do is actually save my map, and before I save my map, one thing that I want to do is turn everything off. And the reason why is because each time I go to open this map, it's going to take quite a while to open ArcGIS and get all the extensions registered or initialized, and then it's going to take a while to draw all of these layers. So to kind of speed up the process of opening ArcGIS, what I tend to do is just turn everything off before I save it, and then when I go to open it, it doesn't have to draw all of those layers. I can turn them on after I know GIS is fully loaded. So I'll go up here to File to Save As. I'm going to save this into my file management system, to my projects, Marlette Park, and I'm going to save it into my GIS folder here, into the workspace, and I definitely want to version this. So in case my map gets corrupted, I don't have to start completely over. I can go back to a previously saved version. So when I version, I usually start with the year, the month, and then the date, because when it organizes it on your hard drive, you're usually going to want to label things this way. Usually with work in process documents, I put the version in the front. When I'm on my final document, in other words, I'm completely done with it, I'll move the date towards the end of the file name. And that way it lists all the numbered type files towards the top, and then the things that have letters with them, the files that start with letters will be underneath the numbered files. And then I usually, the middle part of the name is kind of a description, or not really a description, but the name of the actual project, in this case Marlette Park. And on the end I have a description. So the description is, we are going to be formatting base data. And then sometimes you may want to add a version like 01, 02, 03. So we can do that here. We can put a 01 here. You can pretty much add that version anywhere, but you probably want it to occur after the date. So I'm just going to put it here. This is my first save iteration. I may make some more changes and then do 02, 03, 04. And then if it happens to be the next day, the second, then I'll version my file up to 2015 10 02, and then continue it with my versioning process.